Committee meeting of August 30th, 2023. Please come to order. It is now 9:04 a.m. I am Tasha Kama, Chair of the Housing and Land Use Committee. Chair Lee, do you have a greeting for us today?
Yes, Madam Chair. Half a day. And that's all the way from Guam.
Half a day. Any questions? To Committee Vice Chair Tom Cook.
Aloha and half a day, Chair.
And also to Council Chair Alice Lee.
Half a day.
Councilmember Yuki Lee Sugimura is going to be tardy this morning when we'll greet her when she does arrive. Councilmember Gabe Johnson, aloha.
Half a day, Chair, council members, committee members. There's no testifiers at the Lanai District Office. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. And Councilmember Tamara Paulton.
Aloha kakayaka kako and half a day, the Lahaina District Office burnt down.
Councilmember Keani Rollins Fernandez will be with us shortly. She's running a little late also. Councilmember Shane Sinensi. Oh, okay. Aloha kakahiaka.
Aloha and good morning, Chair, from the East Maui District Office. I'm here with District Staff, Mavis Medeiros and Don Nolan. No testifiers, Chair.
Thank you. We also have with us Councilmember Nohe U'uhajens. Aloha and half a day to you.
Aloha, Chair. Half a day to everyone.
And we have with us from the Department of the Corporation Council, Christina Toshikio. Aloha, Christina.
Aloha, Chair and committee members. Half a day.
We also have sometime today, we're not sure, someone from the Office of the Mayor or the Managing Director. But we have with us the Department of Housing and Human Concerns Director, Lori Suhako. Aloha and half a day, Lori. I think we might have Deputy Director Samalu Mata'apa. Good morning. We also have Ms. Nani Medeiros from the Office of the Governor, Chief Housing Officer. Aloha kakahiaka and half a day.
Aloha.
We have with us also our committee staff, our legislative analyst, Anna Lillis. Aloha, Anna.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members.
And we have our other legislative analyst, Paige Greco.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members.
We have our committee secretary, Stacy Vinere.
Aloha kakahiaka, Chair and members.
And we have our legislative attorney, Remy Mitchell. Aloha.
Aloha, Chair and members.
So members, before we proceed with our agenda, I feel moved once again to pause for a moment of reflection or prayer for some, recognizing the loss of our community and all that they have experienced. So members, may we observe a moment of silence in honor of those who have passed and those who are still missing, and for our first responders who continue to serve our community despite suffering losses themselves. Thank you, members, for that moment of reflection. So members, we have two items for discussion on the agenda today. HLU-3, Parent 5, State Emergency Proclamation Relating to Housing, and HLU-3, Parent 6, State Housing Efforts in Maui County. In accordance with the Sunshine Law, as chair, I will allow public testimony on both agenda items after the presentations from the Governor's Chief Housing Officer, Nani Medeiros. After public testimony, I will take up discussion on the items together due to their similar subject matter. There has been considerable public discussion about what the Governor's Emergency Proclamation on housing means and what the state's housing efforts in our county have been so far. I'm hoping that many of the questions the public and members have about the proclamation will be addressed in the presentation, allowing testimony to be focused. HLU-3 Parent 5 and HLU-3 Parent 6. On July 17th, Governor Green signed an emergency proclamation designed to address the severe lack of housing in the state of Hawaii. Since then, Maui Island has experienced wildfires that destroyed many housing units and displaced people from Lahaina and upcountry, increasing the magnitude of the crises. Nani Medeiros was selected by Governor Green in November 2022 to join his staff before he took office, placing the responsibility for addressing the housing crisis in her hands. As we'll hear from Nani, the emergency proclamation has put her front and center of a cooperative process to cut through the impediments that have kept the needed housing units from being developed as needed. Members, prior to the presentations, I will remind you again to hold your questions until after we have received public testimony on these items. Nani, the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Mahalo, Chair. I'd like to first start by extending my deepest aloha to all of you, the island of Maui, communities of Lahaina and Kula, for the incredible loss that you've experienced. I've brought my colleague, Scott Glenn, with me, and you have our deepest aloha. I'm going to speak a bit about the Governor's Emergency Proclamation, which, as Chair mentioned, was signed on July 17th, in response to a housing crisis that has been in existence in Hawaii for well over 20 years. Starting with some data and facts, Hawaii has the highest level of housing regulations across the United States. These regulations add somewhere between $233,000 and $325,000 to every new home. We have the highest median home prices in the country. We have the highest cost of living. We are the most unaffordable housing market in the United States. The median home price is currently hovering at around 1.1 million, depending on the month you look at in 2023. It takes an annual income of $252,000 a year to be able to purchase that home. You have to earn $252,000 a year. We believe that we have to do something drastic to create affordable housing and housing that is affordable for our local workforce. Teachers, healthcare workers, government workers, construction workers, they typically don't earn $252,000 a year. Our biggest resource is our people, and it's also our biggest export. And for these reasons, the governor signed the emergency proclamation on housing. In addition to suspending some rules, some laws, and creating new alternative processes to develop housing, the emergency proclamation created a working group comprised of state agencies, county agencies, private sector experts, and advocates. The role of the working group is to review project applications and determine whether a project meets criteria and should be certified to move ahead under the processes created via the proclamation. Every member of the working group is anticipated to contribute to the evaluation of a project with the same diligence they would use in reviewing a project that is not certified by the proclamation. The same organizations that currently conduct reviews, State Historic Preservation Division, Board of Water Supply, Land Use Commission, they're all on this working group for that very reason. They have the expertise, this is what they do. The group was anticipated to help expedite the review process and construction or renovation of housing projects because of the unprecedented coordination and cooperation across government agencies and input from private stakeholders and community. Lahaina is not on the table, not until the community is ready. If and when they are ready, if the working group can assist or support in any way, we will. To date, we have conducted assessments on Maui. Much of this began before the wildfires, as we were drafting the emergency proclamation to identify what projects existed in Maui County's pipeline. We had identified, and it's preliminary, it's going to evolve as projects come and go, But at the time that the proclamation was signed, we had identified 11,000 units in Maui County's pipeline of housing projects anticipated over the next 10 years. Post-fires, we have conducted additional assessments on Maui. We've done assessments to identify available government land, available private land, infrastructure capacity, infrastructure needs, and the human needs. We are conducting assessments, needs assessments of residents and the community to hear firsthand from them what their needs and wants are with regard to housing and community. These discussions are ongoing and will continue to be. To the extent the emergency proclamation can help with housing in Maui, to the extent that the community or DHHL beneficiaries support that, we are ready to assist in any way that we can. Building upon what I was just speaking to with regard to the assessments, over the past few weeks, we have met with community stakeholders, county officials, county workers, and developers and building industry members to determine where can we do what. So as of today, and I will be attending a meeting this afternoon with county workers from Public Works, from Housing, from Planning, from the Mayor's Office, to filter this list down even more. But as of today, we are looking at maybe 3 to 4 government-owned parcels, and maybe 2 to 3 privately owned parcels that are not in West Maui. I will say that the government-owned parcels we're looking at are in West Maui. So there's West Maui and there's Central Maui where we've identified land. Infrastructure is the biggest challenge. And as I mentioned earlier, the meetings with the community members, the folks who've actually experienced the displacement, are key to any decisions that are made about what is built and where it's put. And we've heard from people who want to stay in West Maui, and we've heard from people who have said, I don't want to go back to West Maui. And we need to be able to respect everybody's wishes who's been affected. That's on the new construction side, if you will. Existing projects in the pipeline, we've identified about 7 projects in existence. Some are already in construction that might be able to be helped and nudged and expedited to deliver units as quickly as January of next year and as far out as the next 12 to 18 months. That would conclude what we're looking at in terms of housing construction. We are also looking at options that don't involve construction. The Attorney General is currently looking at creating a mortgage forbearance program to help our homeowners who have lost their home and still have mortgages, to create a way to prevent evictions for renters, similar to what was done by COVID, but in a way that does not get challenged in the courts. She's also examining that. There's already a moratorium on rent increases in the emergency proclamation on wildfires. In addition to that, we are exploring using short-term vacation rentals on a long-term basis. Our data tells us that Maui has somewhere between 10 to 12,000 short-term vacation rental units just on this island. We hear a lot of people saying, how can we help? How can we help you, Maui? What can we do for you? One of the single most meaningful things people can do who own a second, third, or fourth home, give that to the community right now so someone can live there for the next year or 2. It does not create a new burden on infrastructure. It makes sense, and it helps your community. Those are the efforts to date, Madam Chair, amongst a lot of other things that we're still considering and listening. A lot of meetings today. A lot of meetings tomorrow with community members, other government officials, and nonprofit partners.
Sorry, that was Justin Huey. Last time I spoke, I didn't think that my testimony would have 2 million hits on social media, and I just wanted to state that I'm a strong Democrat with a long history of calling out Democrats that, seem to not go down the wrong path. And my testimony resonated with my constituents and even the server at the Ritz-Carlton. First, I want to talk about the governor spoke, and he said, Lahaina belongs to its people, and we are committed to rebuilding Lahaina the way the people of Lahaina want. Again, the July 17th emergency proclamation turned the county into a puppet government and gave all of their housing authority to Nani Medeiros, who's unelected and used to work for the Linda Lingle administration. The July 17th emergency proclamation, the actual actions in it does not ensure affordable housing. The word affordable is not defined in the document. 140% of area median income is not actually affordable. 100% or less might be. Legislature advocates for 80%. Governor Green came to Maui Monday. He prioritized his meeting to meet with his developer friends and his associates of Tori Hashimoto, Yuki Lei, over meeting with over 400 suffering public school employees in Kapalua. But he did send his lieutenant governor. Building Beyond Barriers group, the first meeting they didn't meet in person, audio did not work. The second meeting, August 29th, no verbal testimony would be accepted, then changed their mind for only the people in the room, which is extremely unfair. A lot of people who met the deadline or testimony were not included in the packet that was distributed to the members of the working group. The July 17th emergency proclamation suspended the school impact fees. So the DOE requested $134 million in project completion CIP funds last year, literally the funds to complete school projects, and Finance Chair Kyle Yamashita reduced that to zero. The DOE is starting with a $134 million deficit, and yet they need money to rebuild King Kamehameha III.
Justin, can you wrap up that one and go into your other testimony if you have?
Sure, yes.
Thank you.
The July 17th emergency proclamation of suspended collective bargaining. This is already hurting public education while on the west side. The first 2 days back for the 400 plus employees, Monday and Tuesday, numerous people were asking the superintendent why we're not doing impact bargaining, and it was expressed that it's because of the July 17th suspension of emergency collective bargaining. The July 17th emergency suspended school impact fees. So like $5,000 per house that gets built, getting rid of school impact fees is just a giveaway to developers, $1 million giveaway to people like Dowling who don't need it and could go towards rebuilding. So HSTA Maui Chapter Representative Assembly, the teachers of Maui, unanimously passed a new business item requesting that HSTA Board of Directors believes that when Governor Josh Green either renews or replaces the emergency proclamation dated July 17th, he should restore all 7 statutes that were suspended. The same teachers unanimously passed a new business item requesting the HSTA Board of Directors shall advocate for economic justice with Josh Green renews or restores the emergency proclamation dated August 8th to include a moratorium on foreclosures, evictions, rent increases, and call for subsidized rentals. Now, after my presentation last time, unfortunately, very disconcerting, Nani Medeiros called my union president, and it wasn't a nice phone call. And when people give testimony, that shouldn't be the response. The legal definition of an emergency is an urgent, sudden, and serious event of an unforeseen change in circumstances that necessitates immediate action to remedy or harm or avert immediate danger of life, health, and property. The July 17th emergency proclamation is not addressing the emergency. I am asking the county council that you pass a resolution distancing yourself from this, restoring the 7 statutes. I don't want this to be on Fox News again. This is absolutely ridiculous. We need, I just want to thank Angus McKelvey, who was quoted in the Star Advertiser saying, Green's declaration of a housing emergency to be an improper use of emergency power, and said that there are better ways to improve this chronic problem. Yes, it's a crisis, affordable housing, but to take down our rights, to take down democracy, you are hurting the teachers, you are hurting the people of Lahaina. Enough is enough. Distance yourself from this as soon as you can. Thank you very much.
Today, my name is Jordan Hawker. I'm a resident of Kula. For the first agenda item, HLU-3 I will be testifying as a private citizen on my own behalf. So I just want to say I'm here for truly affordable housing. We all know that we need it. I don't think anybody in this room disagrees. My issue is some of the narratives that are being pushed under the guise of affordable housing, specifically the ones that support what is called on the mainland deregulation. The reality is, I'm going to read you the laws that are suspended in case you haven't read the Governor's Emergency Proclamation from July 17th and you're not familiar with all of the things that are suspended to the extent that housing is needed. It's not really defined, and we don't really know what that's going to look like. But what I am going to say is that not mentioning the speculative real estate market in all of this, not mentioning the fact that developers are a spectrum. Some of them want to build affordable housing and some of them want to squeeze every single last penny that they possibly can get out. That's why our housing is very expensive. So due to those, I guess, proclivities towards greed and not the common person in our market, I would argue that has just as much to do with our high housing prices. So I'd like to read what is considered the regulations that are the boogeyman to affordable housing. Under Section 5, suspension of laws, I'm just going to read some that I think are particularly pertinent based on what I've seen in our affordable housing projects here in Maui County. Historic preservation. Just so you're aware, burial desecration does happen with housing projects, even when these historic preservation laws are in place. Talk to anybody who's been in Lahaina for about 30 years. So that's one. The second one is county organization and administration, collective bargaining and public employment. I don't understand how the unions would get behind this, even the carpenters union. I'll finish up in just a moment. Because that doesn't give the people who are going to build the house any collective bargaining power. That's our working class people. They fall under that category. I would also like to include working class people, people who work at Target, people who work at Walmart, people who are serving our food, and people who are working in fast food restaurants. We can't just keep focusing on teachers, policemen, that sort of thing, because a lot of us fall below that threshold. Thank you. So as the school impact fees were also suspended, land use commission, as well as environmental impact statements. The reason these regulations are in place is because we live in an incredibly special area with a lot of cultural and a lot of environmental resources that need to be protected. I'm going to ask the people in this body who agree with me, push back against the narrative that it's these regulations that are keeping our housing so sky high. I'll move on to my next testimony. Thank you for allowing time for me to wrap up. I am a member of the Maui Tenants Association, and I would like to address under HLU-3 that despite the governor's proclamation, our hotline is receiving 20 plus calls a day from people who are being evicted. There are 2 loopholes under the current emergency proclamation, and I call them loopholes because people who have investment properties that they're trying to offload, I'm just going to say, care more about their investment than they do the state of our community. So the first loophole is if someone has violated the material terms of their lease, which would be, say, their family lost their house in Lahaina, and they moved that family in to shelter them. And you've got something like maybe 14 people living in one house when the lease says you can only have 2. That landlord could begin eviction proceedings against their tenant. The second one is moving themselves or a family member into their house. It's the main, and I'm going to call it an excuse because I find it really hard to believe that people who claim that they're investment buyers are suddenly now, after getting pushback on evictions, going to say, oh, I got to move my family in here. There is no regulation. There is no accountability. There is nobody even seeing if they do evict their tenants under the guise that they're moving their family member in, that they don't raise the rent for the next tenant. We're drowning over here. The emergency proclamation isn't working. The Maui Tenants Association did have a press conference. We delivered, I believe, a list of our demands that we think would actually, boots on the ground, help tenants. And I haven't seen any movement on that. So what I will say is people are getting evicted. I called it backdoor evictions during COVID. You could sell your house, you could raise the rent. People can still do those things under this currently emergency proclamation. We are not protected by it fully.
Testimony. I just wanted to clarify the laws suspended that you wanted to list out. Was it historic preservation, collective bargaining, public employees, county organization and administration, school impact fees, land use commission, and environmental assessment?
That's correct.
that's the entirety?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some additional ones about other county rules and whatnot, and I do encourage everyone to read that section of the emergency proclamation if you haven't.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on the Maui Tenants Association, I took your demands and I hand delivered them to the mayor, and he's reviewing them now, just to let you know.
Thank you, I appreciate that. We weren't able to take them to the 9th floor because of the badge clearance, so I appreciate you doing that on our behalf.
Testifying from Kula, this is Robert Benz. As soon as I heard about this, even before the fire, I knew this was a bad move, unprecedented to declare emergency. And very importantly, this emergency, it doesn't even do anything to spell out low income. It's for any kind of housing. So mansions that qualify, it allows them to take agricultural conservation lands, change them. It has no sunshine law. I agree with the first testifier, the teacher. The county should declare they're not involved with this and they don't like this. This is unacceptable. Local people know what is going on. We're not going to stand for this. When I was young and as a farmer in Hawaii, we used to have 3 legs of our economic stool, agriculture. The governor has not been supporting agriculture. He gives millions to the tourists. The majority, the 5 that always vote the same, they voted to give money for the developers from the poor. The property taxes that these developers are paying is ridiculous. And those of us that have been here for generations somehow managed to get land for less than that $200,000 a year and getting by with pennies a year. We are getting property tax out. So that's the kind of stuff that makes people like my neighbor move away. Much of my neighbors that have all been here for generations moving away. And these things could be changed without so-called emergency that was convenient before this actual emergency. And as soon as he said, it's right after the fire, he's going to send his housing officer over there, they didn't meet with the locals. That conference shows no locals. They meet with the big developers. BlackRock owns A&B, majority shares Matson, majority shares Eco, majority share most of these big landowners that is taking advantage of the people. This is not business like it used to be. It's a world of feudalism. So we should tax those guys, and because you're gonna need a lot of tax money. So tax those big hedge funds.
My name is Joseph Pluta. I'm the president of the West Maui Taxpayers Association, the West Maui Improvement Foundation. I'm testifying under that capacity also as an individual. I'm testifying in strong support as what I understand is allowable under the emergency proclamation, and that's for the approval of a shovel-ready project at Pulilehua in West Maui, where the developer is willing to put 800 affordable units to the West Maui residents as soon as possible. He's ready to go, ready to build. Can be done now. All he needs is financial assistance from the county and state and expedited approval allowed in the emergency process to continue with that financial support. As a victim of this horrific thing and a resident of West Maui for 45 years, I know we need this. I'm asking the council and the state to forget about any kind of flaws they can find in this language of this bill, to look at the big picture. The big picture is to allow the expeditious construction of affordable homes to happen. And we have a proven developer with experience at Pulele who are shovel ready to go. Let's give him the money and resources he needs to bring us 800 affordable homes, all of them affordable to West Maui as soon as possible.
Morning.
Thank you.
Holden Takahashi, substitute teacher, supporter of Pulukai Puni, partner of Pulukai Puni, Makua, testifying as an individual. It's my personal opinion that Pulelehu and other so-called affordable housing projects are the issue here. Everything else has been destroyed now, and now the corporate vultures want us to cling like rats on floating debris of a shipwreck stranded in the ocean. But they'll forget that our home is the center of the Pacific. We are people of Moananui-a-Kea. We don't have a housing and economic emergency, we have a political emergency. We say that we need the most, we do not have a housing and economic emergency, we have a political emergency. We say that we have the most housing laws because we need to ensure that our places are protected. When we talk about affordable housing, again, we ask the question, for who? Why are the Hawaiian and local communities disempowered, disenfranchised, and enslaved to the linear economy system that has destabilized our resources, resulted in the destruction of our key political land base in Hawaii, Lahaina? And the reason why these protections are being shared is to ensure that we have no voice and no laws to draw power from as we fight for our humanity and our right to live in our own homes. Just because Lahaina is not on the list for now does not mean that other communities across Hawaii are safe. Organized as Ohana communities and a nation to regain control of our land and resources, there are no houseless, hungry, or endangered citizens in a Hawaiian national ideology. Our Constitution, Ke Kumu Kanawai, prohibits this. There are no short-term leases for our families in a Hawaiian national agenda. We live in harmony with our ancestral places and Kuleana from time immemorial and indefinitely into the future. I demand that the emergency proclamation be rescinded. All prior protections laws that protect our cultural landscapes, resources, histories, and communities be reinstated immediately. Suspend the governor's emergency powers conferred to him indefinitely until the Lahaina community, as defined by Lahaina community, are centralized in leadership, planning, execution, and maintenance in the revitalization of the Moku of Lahaina, the island of Maui, and the air Hawaii, our sovereignty as a Lahui, a nation. Divest from neoliberal capitalism, extractive methods, industries, and private colonizer conglomerates, such as West Maui Land, Launiopoko Irrigation, Ka'anapali Land, Maui Land and Pine, Mahi Pono, Alexander and Baldwin, etc., etc. I get 2 more minutes, I'm going to be doing both. Investigate them for the historical, environmental, social, and humanitarian crimes and hold them accountable for this climate disaster. Deny all foreign speculators, contractors, lobbyists, realtors, politicians, transients, and visitors access to Hawaii. Reorganize leadership groups based on mo'okuauhau, kuleana, advocacy, and capacity to malama, or provide facilitating social aid, and dismantle institutions of climate disaster profiteering. Do not be fooled, our ohana, we are being raided, not aided, through disaster capitalism. It is insane, despicable, and inhumane to attempt to maintain the systems that have literally killed us, been killing us, and will continue to do so until we are given control over our resources, our policies, and more importantly, our education. Ke Kumu Kanawai, 1840, Lua Ehu Constitution, Moku Ula, Moku Himia, the political center and pico of Lahaina, Hawaii, the Pacific, and right now the world. Aole ho e pono ke kaui ke kanawai ho'omalu ali'i wale no, ho'omalu ole i nā maka'ainana. Aole ho e pono ke kaui ke kanawai ho'owaiwai i nā ali'i wale no, a waiwai ole nā maka'ainana. Aole loa e kau ia ke kahi kanawai ku e I ke ema olelo I olelo ia maluna. Yeah, we're not going to just protect the ali'i. We're not going to protect just our leaders, but our maka'ainana. We're not going to just make rules and laws and policies that only benefit the upper class, yeah? We are here for everybody. We're here for all Ohana, Lahaina, and Hawaii. We cannot talk about housing and development without water needed for those types of developments. And we cannot talk about needs and uses for water without continuing the kuleana of the lineal descendants whose family have been shaking their heads for generations at these monstrosities of institutions and relics of an arbitrary experiment by American capitalist agenda. The IIFS and water protection area was informed, advocated, and fought for by lineal descendants for most of their lives. Kuleana and advocates for the future, particularly subsection 174C-101, in which provisions of the chapter should not be construed or amended to modify rights or entitlement to water. Yeah. Section C, traditional and customary rights of Ahupua'a tenants who are descendants of Native Hawaiians who inhabited the Hawaiian Islands prior to 1778 shall not be abridged or denied by this chapter, particularly traditional and customary rights. I'm gonna finish up. The designation as a water protected area to stop the bleeding as developers dewater aquifer was interrupted by the climate disaster that they caused. They destabilized our resources. They took everything away from us, and they want to push us out. That's not going to happen. In terms of fire prevention, our sustainable low carbon and low climate impact, oh my God, lifestyle are here to ensure that all of our streams are watered, all of our places are lush, and nowhere will burn. Only money, only these foreign apparatuses can burn. Anyways, to our Ohana, sorry, one more time. To our Ohana, Lahaina, and Hawaii, our collective stories that we weave the rich tapestry of resilience, resistance, and repatriation. Our ancestors worked side by side, lived together, made families together, nationalized together. We are here in the face of tragedy. We have lost together, we grieve together, and we need each other now more than ever. These emergencies and disasters are declared by those that cause this unprecedented climate disaster, Americanized leaders, serving to a system that looks to splinter our efforts and erase our past, literally destroy us. Ole. I mea ho'omalulike ina kanaka a pau, me na ali'i a pau ke pai aina, I ko kako noho pona ana. We are the Kanaka, we are the ali'i, we are here to preserve the integrity of our relationships to Lahaina as a place where we are all Ohana, we are safe, and most importantly, we are all educated. Mahalo.
Mr. Holden.
Hi, my name is Amber Koontz. I'm a Lahaina resident testifying from Haiku today. I heard that we have 10 to 12,000 short-term rental units in Maui County right now. I hear that they want to know what our needs and wants are. Our needs are long-term rental units right now for the workers and residents of the entire island, but especially upcountry in West Maui. I also heard that our biggest resource is our people. I also want to add that I think clearly our land and water is also, sorry, I'm a little emotional here. Our land and water and our people are all our most important resource, but that's not what the policies from our county and our state government agencies have been showing us for decades and obviously for generations. There's a worker shortage before COVID in pretty much every sector in Hawaii, especially Maui. I also want to touch on the worker shortage from everything from service jobs mentioned before in retail, up to restaurant, to skilled trades, to medical care, first responders, teachers, pretty much every sector we have a worker shortage, and that's due to the housing shortage. So what we need is long-term rentals for the residents right now in those 10 to 12,000 rental units, because I also heard it said that infrastructure is our biggest challenge. I'm going to go ahead and continue because I feel that this is pertinent to both items here. Infrastructure is our biggest challenge. We know that. We've been telling the county and the state that for decades. Our infrastructure is insufficient for the population, and I mean the resident population and the approximately 40 to 70,000 tourists that are on island every single day. And so I understand that people are in a rush to build, but our infrastructure can't handle what we have here already. And the state needs to find a way to get us in the 10 to 12,000 units that are already here.
This is Johan Wall. I'm testifying on my own behalf. I think it's important to have multiple perspectives, and you guys have heard and will hear from a lot of Hawaiians and a lot of activists and folks like that. Before I worked for the County of Maui, I worked in law enforcement. And I worked in law enforcement during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I don't necessarily agree with everything that came out of that movement, certain accusations, claims, or policies like defund the police, things like that. But one thing that was really good was an increased transparency and accountability for police across the nation. And police pretty much everywhere now wear like body cameras, for example, and they have policies in place for de-escalation, and a lot of things improved dramatically. And so transparency, accountability are important. And the governor's proclamation just removed pretty much all the transparency and accountability when it comes to development, which is one of the most critical things in Hawaii, especially. This is the extinction capital of the world. It's a place where there are burials everywhere that are being impacted. There is cultural access that is in the state constitution. This is the most critical place where people and the environment are most directly impacted by development. And this is also the only place where laws have been suspended under the guise of affordable housing when the proclamation doesn't actually mention affordability, as far as I can tell. You know, this is also the only place where corruption is considered acceptable, and it's considered taboo to criticize corruption. You know, a lot of, and moving on to the next part, which is really the same thing. You know, a lot of things have shocked me being in Hawaii and working in government, and it's I mean, it's beyond astonishing. You know, things like developers violating the law and getting away with it, even with the laws actually being in place. That doesn't happen elsewhere. Or if it does, people are ashamed of it. They know to be ashamed. Here, they act indignant when they're called out on it. This is the only place where backroom deals are considered okay. This is the only place where a former mayor who appears to be involved in corruption would be affirmed to a board by a 5-member majority of a council. That wouldn't happen anywhere in America. It just would not happen. A water and a land grab by the most corrupt developer would not happen in America without criticism and without people in the streets marching in protest. That would not happen. You know, this is totally bizarre, and it has roots in plantation culture. And you know, I'm originally from the Caribbean, so I get it. But I mean, I think this is about the time when we need to move on. We need to join the rest of America in not accepting corruption, backroom deals, you know, land grabs, and we need to stop pretending like bad people are good people. We need to call out people like Peter Martin, Dean Frampton, Bill Frampton, Dave Ward.
Can you please wrap up your testimony?
Yep. So in conclusion, I mean, it's time to be more American, and at the same time, we can move toward, you know, respecting Native Hawaiian rights and things like that, because in the rest of America, Native rights are respected, burials are respected. Mahalo.
Thank you. Members, questions for the testifier?
Good morning, Council. My name is Jason Economou. I am the Government Affairs Director for the Realtors Association Maui. This emergency proclamation from the governor began because of a housing crisis. But really, the emergency proclamation is indicative of a crisis of government. Your own reports that your temporary investigative group put together in 2016, SMS put together in 2018, and Hawaii Community Association put together in 2021. All of these reports identified that we need zoning reform. We need to increase density, and also that we need reform on the processes by which we get to housing. There are too many discretionary approvals. That doesn't mean that we need to get rid of all regulation. That's not what I'm advocating for. What I'm advocating for is a better government that serves the people. What happened here is that this county, really all the counties, have failed to provide housing, a basic human need for their residents, not for a few years, for decades. And we've been reaching for answers for several years, and we've sponsored so many reports. And at the top of the list is always remove some of these discretionary approvals, streamline the process, and reform zoning. And we don't do any of it, none of it. Instead, we bicker over deed restrictions and things that aren't really affecting how we get people into housing. In truth, you know, Governor Josh Green, one of his best ideas that got him to the State House was kauhales, right? We can all agree on that. It's a founded idea in Hawaiian culture, and it's illegal according to our zoning. Our zoning, which was really just adopted from the federal government, 70 years ago, and spread throughout the country. We know that this zoning, when it was created, was generally intended to keep groups of immigrants, minorities, poor people out of neighborhoods with things like, minimum lot sizes, setbacks, ADUs, all of these things being challenged. We need to change how we do things in Hawaii. I agree with these testifiers. This is not ideal. We don't need an unelected official rubber stamping things as our means of government. That's not what we were intended for. We have a charter for a reason. We have a constitution for a reason. I want us to follow it. But the truth is, when bureaucracy, when government fails, tyranny starts to look appealing to people, and that's a problem. We need to do better for our people. Please, go back to your reports. Go back to the research we've already paid for, and look at what those recommendations are and actually implement them to get housing. We need zoning reform as soon as possible. If I may, on the second item, regarding that more immediate term housing that we need, you're right, we have so many short-term rentals. And I've heard from a lot of people that want to convert to short-term rentals. But the County of Maui will keep on charging them as short-term rentals until next tax year, when they can hand in a year-long lease. We need a faster means to get people to reduce their carrying costs for their units while helping our community. Similarly, there are a lot of people in residential areas, agricultural areas, that really do want to house folks who are displaced. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. But a lot of them are afraid to do so because the county's enforcement hasn't been clear. There's no clear message that, yes, you can house people. We won't enforce against you as a short-term rental. Oh, if you have that Nohana and you put somebody in there, we're not going to send planning department people down to knock down your door and give you fines of $10,000 a day. We need that messaging so that these people, our people, can get into housing because these vouchers are going to run out. We need solutions now. Thank you.
Does RAM support the governor's emergency proclamation?
RAM does not have a position on the emergency proclamation, but we do have a position on zoning reform and housing, and we want it. We want it for our people.
The next testifier is Pamela Toompop, to be followed by...
We just wanted to share that, we have put together 2 housing forums prior to COVID in 2017 and 2019. And what we find in this proclamation are many common takeaways from both of those forums on areas that are generally hold up the process to get housing built, which in turn drives the cost of housing up. The governor's proclamation addresses several of these areas, like allowing county authorities to approve district boundary amendments up to 100 acres instead of the State Land Use Commission. This is something that has been consistently brought up as a hindrance. And there has also been legislation to change this for many years at the state legislature, but we've never gotten that done. Additionally, we appreciate the changes to allow the county to hire third-party reviewers, allow planning directors to approve the 201H projects, and streamlining the review of the State Historic Preservation Division. One of the things that we also see is that the proclamation needs to be reauthorized every few months. And it's our understanding for another meeting that Amber attended in my behalf, is that it can be adjusted as needed with the goal of finding practices that help streamline the processes that can be put forward as legislation. We also recognize that while some of the areas being streamlined through we also recognize that while some of the areas being streamlined through the proclamation is happening, all projects must still be reviewed by the Build Beyond Barriers Working Group, who can recommend additional reviews from state agencies, and that they are not skipping steps that protect our environment, which we feel is very important. We need all tools in the toolbox. We have been in this crisis for a long time. I agree we must also address rentals. We need housing, but we also need affordable housing, and we also need affordable rentals. And we need to look at these in unison.
Steward. Jackie Keefe, are you available?
I'm a resident of Napili and just wanted to speak on both. We've heard for years that permitting on Maui takes forever. It sure seems like permits go through for the things that they shouldn't, like the Monster House on the lower road in Napili. But we're prioritizing the rich and not our own people. What I mean by that is that this proclamation was written in a way that is way too vague. I cannot say if I'm for or against it because it's a complicated question with a complicated answer. Affordable is not defined. That alone is reason not to trust it. The governor has shown that the people in the industries that he is interested in hearing from are the rich landowners and the developers rather than the working people who have been leaving in droves because we can't get a realistic definition of affordable. Why do we keep using the federal guidelines when that's not how it is out here? Life is different. We need our own guidelines. I'm so tired of hearing the words, people don't want to work anymore. That's not what's happening. We don't have the people anymore. I work in restaurants and I have seen people constantly having to move away, whether it's because of the housing or because they're not making enough money. 2020 really changed things for people in my industry. We had people spend all this time with their family, right? Because they had basically a year off. And they're like, oh, you know what? I like spending time with my family. I'm going to work one job now. I'm going to figure out how to live with one job. And that is almost impossible out here. Even in my industry, people go into restaurants because it's supposed to be, you know, good money and whatever, but it's also, you know, it can be a really grueling schedule and you get treated horribly. And we don't have the kind of healthcare that we need. And that strains the business owners, because business owners, I love that Hawaii requires that we have to have people who are regularly working employed, but that shouldn't be the responsibility of restaurant owners who already operate with incredibly low margins. And we need to have healthcare for all. That would take one thing off the list, right? But I need to stop hearing people say, people don't want to work. It's not that. You just don't have one person working 3 jobs now. So it has changed things. And we need temporary housing systems that are in line with our already approved community plan. Efforts are being pushed outside of that community plan, but we need to take the resources that people are offering us and build upon the sites that have been agreed upon. For example, Pulelehua. Thank you for letting me.
Aloha nui, e ke kalana o Maui, o Kanoilani Stewart Keia no Lahaina Mayao. My name is Kanoilani Stewart, born and raised in Lahaina, and I'm here to briefly testify on the agenda items relating to housing. Although this is an informational meeting and no decisions will be made, I just wanted to share my mana'o about housing, because any sort of development that happens anywhere, especially in Lahaina, should also be talking about water. Although the most recent Emergency 6 proclamation relating to wildfires has suspended Chapter 174C HRS State Water Code, I would hope that every council member in our county council continues to advocate and uphold every part of our state water code, especially recognizing the previous hard work that was put in by the Lahaina community to establish interim in-stream flow standards for every stream in West Maui from Ukumehame to Honokohau. These interim in-stream flow standards were not created overnight. Through research and many community meetings, these standards were made in collaboration with many government agencies, private landowners, and many, many members of our Lahaina community, especially Ohana that come from every single valley in Maui Komohana. Not only do these interim in-stream flow standards take into account the amount of water that is needed for every off-stream user, it also ensures the life and longevity of our native fish and wildlife habitats, as well as protection of other in-stream users. In addition to upholding previously established interim in-stream flow standards, Maui Komohana was also designated as a surface and groundwater management area. This designation can only complement the hard work that the county has done for the Maui County Water Use Development Plan and everything that that plan seeks to accomplish. It is another layer of protection, another tool that can be used effectively to regulate and manage ground and surface water as a whole unit, instead of as 2 separate entities, as if water in the stream has no connection to water in our aquifer. It is one and the same and is the most critical resource we have. Our Constitution requires that water be carefully protected and managed to ensure its availability for the benefit of present and future generations. As a kumu at our Kulukai Punio Lahaina, we take our haumana to these valleys and other places throughout Maui Komohana to be immersed in our practices that can only happen with sufficient water flow to these areas. If our state water code is ignored and the valleys that we visit dry up, the next generation loses out on an opportunity to learn about how Momona, the place they come from, is, as well as the practices that are tied to that place and our resources. Additionally, Lo'ikalo are recognized as a natural fire break in 2015 Western Maui Fire Report, and that the Kuleana families who are living in these valleys need water in the stream for fire protection, as many of them don't have any county connections or fire hydrants. Traditional land use management and ahupua'a management provided for fire suppression while also working with the environment and the limits of resources. The modern fire suppression of extensive green lawns remove and extract water from the natural cycle. Sorry, wrapping up. Again, in the midst of this difficult time for the people of Lahaina, and as we go on to talk about housing and developments, especially those pertaining to Lahaina, I urge our council members to uphold the state water code, to continue to work collaboratively with CMER to manage and protect our water sources in West Maui, to ensure reasonable, beneficial use of the water for our community.
Testifier is Robin Knox.
I'm testifying on both items. First of all, on the state housing emergency proclamation, it is nothing less than a threat to democracy and appears to be unconstitutional. I 100% support reduction of red tape and unnecessary requirements, including zoning requirements. But that is in the context of that the government needs to do its job better and more efficiently, and I believe you can. The solution is not to set aside environmental, cultural, sunshine laws, procurement laws, collective bargaining, all of those things. And the proclamation and the expedited process should be only for affordable housing. Put everything else on the back burner and focus on affordable housing. With regard to water cases, not only the stream flow and the designation of management areas, but also the injection wells in Lahaina. Our community, for all of these things, has fought for decades. And those decisions made through a public process and through our justice system should not be set aside for any reason. And all of our community plans should be honored. This is the will of the people. State of Hawaii, do the will of the people, not the will of developers and outside interests who want to invest and profit from Hawaii's housing. Moving, should I go on to my second item?
Yes, please do.
Okay, with regard to Lahaina, please support the mortgage moratorium or forbearance and the moratorium on raising rental prices or eviction without cause, and extend those moratoriums for up to 1 year or minimum up to 1 year. I was so happy to hear Nani's focus on placing families in the short-term rental and vacation homes. This is a no-brainer. We have empty housing that could be used to house people. And because it's short-term rental, a lot of these, they're actually fully furnished, which would be perfect for a family that just lost everything. Families don't belong in hotel rooms. They belong in a dwelling where they have a kitchen, where they can gather in a more normal setting. And as was pointed out, the infrastructure's there. It's already built. It can be done immediately. So please, County Council, do whatever you can to facilitate that. I previously testified to you that one of the most painful things after Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana was the loss of culture, because people were evacuated off island in order just to shelter them and have housing. Do not let that happen here. Or in that case, they were out of state, but don't let people go off island just to get housing. And then the thing I learned, I was on a webcast with some of the wildfire experts, including Pat Derlin from the Hawaii Wildlife Management Organization. And one of the things I learned during that webcast was that, yes, we have to build expeditiously. We already had a crisis, and now the fires have made it worse. But do not build in a way that is not climate resilient. Do not build in a way that is not protective against wildfire. So research, even in your attempt to move as quickly as possible, do not set aside intelligence and common sense in how we rebuild. And use that R1 water for fire breaks, for restoration of wetlands, not for golf courses and hotel landscaping. Mahalo.
Aloha mai. My name is Shannon E. I'm going to be testifying on 2 items. First of all, can you hear me? I'm speaking loud enough. Can you understand me? And am I speaking the right language? Because I ask this because no one has been listening to the people of Lahaina. We have been falling on deaf ears. People who want to fill their pockets are making short-term, harmful decisions for us. And it's kind of funny that I think the main person that a lot of us wanted to address this information to walked out the room. Funny also how another very important meeting regarding our keiki is being held at the same time as this meeting. Funny how there is still no meeting being held in Lahaina. Lahaina continues to struggle, but yet still no one is listening. Actually, let me correct that. Our community is listening. Our Pai'aino Hawaii is listening. Our people continue to show up, but where are the people in charge who work for the people? Oh, right, too busy sitting comfortably, creating these proclamations that continue to strip us of our basic needs, that continue to strip us of hope. Build beyond barriers, you say? For generations, you have continued to build the barriers higher for our people to stay stuck so that you can continue to steal our water, our land, and the mana of our people. Guess what? This will no longer be an option. The people of the world are watching and exposing the corrupt state of Hawaii, the corrupt government who perform mass genocide of our people. We will not live in a box. I'm not living in one of those boxes that kind of just get thrown, onto places. We will continue to stand for all the nonsense. We will continue to stand. We're not going to stand for the nonsense. The people will be heard. We will speak, and you will do what we want. We don't even have our lives together at the moment. And the people who are supposed to be there to help us, especially FEMA, Red Cross, and the fake state of Hawaii, are culturally insensitive. Have you sat and took the time to really listen to anyone, just one ohana, who have been affected by the fire, such as myself, and many other ohana? The things we have to go through on a daily basis, long lines, piles of paperwork, links to follow, worrying about long-term housing, filtering through trauma. Don't rush us. We know what's best for us, not you. There are souls still lingering in Lahaina. Are you ready for that? There have been blame everywhere and many things that are distracting the people, but Lahaina is paying attention. We will no longer ask. Lahaina will now tell you what we will do as a community. We are tired of asking, tired of being pushed aside, tired of the continued lack of support and resources from the powers that be. We've been being taken care of by our own people, by our own community, by the donations that come from all over the world. Does your working group, this working group that Nani Madaris talked about, include the people of Lahaina? I think not. Don't tell us what this emergency proclamation is doing for us. Don't tell us the urgency of affordable housing so you can fast track to our cultural protections and other regulations that protect the people. Stop the developers, stop the LLCs who hide behind the barriers that have been put up for centuries. Another thing you continue to build and talk about is short-term headaches. When we don't even have a hospital in West Maui, is that not a sign that you never did care about the health of our people? You continue to support land grab and water theft. We will no longer let this happen, no matter what it takes. Stop mismanaging our resources that give us life.
All right, aloha kakayaka. Ore no namae wa Pikachu de gozaru. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. My name is Shelby Jason Keiku Kalani Paki, billionaire. We come from Tahiti. I'm not from this planet. I am from Pleiades, as Makali'i, from the Kumalipo, based on Queen Liliuokalani. Now, Uncle Kemoku Kapo and Auntie Ui inspired me to come here to talk about the FEMA stuff with Uncle Junior Nakoa, because we were 4 to 5 days out coming from Oahu. As you know, I was born and raised in Waianae, west side, best side. Shout out to Lahaina. Keep Hawaiian lands in Lahaina hands. Heck yeah. So we came on a boat here, and there's a whole story, which I know I'm going to talk fast. And we got here sacrificing our lives on Brother Coastman Sim's boat on Molokai. We had great deer sausage. We came here, and I haven't left. We haven't left because just like if you read the Sun Tzu Art of War, I brought the book copy for a visual reference. I'm an Air Force veteran. I joined the Air Force 23 years ago when I was 17, so we don't know how to handle these situations with Pacific Command. I can talk to General Howard. I can talk to the Admiral. It is fine. We know how to do it because we can rock and roll. We have core values. 3, integrity first, service before self, excellence all you do. That's it. We don't have integrity. Show me the cash flow statement. You can hear with Tamara and other people, we're talking on the side, trying to make a deal. We're trying to get temporary housing with shelters. There we do on Hilo, Big Island. It's so easy. Bring it over. We will build it like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. However, regarding the first agenda item, when we go to this FEMA meeting after maybe 2 weeks in, we're getting shafted. We're not allowed to talk. I had to take off the camera. And yes, no, I produce on Olelo TV on Oahu, the #1 producer. Orega ichiban daze yukata. To help inspire future children because they're always editing us out, just like on the Mauna. So that's why we have the camera to make sure we go live so it can go straight directly to all the hearts to affect our mo'opuna to make the world a better place. So that's why we're here. But when we went to this FEMA meeting, I have all the notes right here because I learned from Blue's Clues and all my nieces and nephews. Right here, I took notes, I took pictures. It's on my Facebook. You look at it, Shobi Keiki O Kalani. I know the Malihini cannot spell that. That's why I just go with Pikachu. It's way easier. So, on their list of PODs is point of distribution. Our list, Kahana Ohana Born, is not on there. Nor is Esterns, Alika and the boys. Why are you 86ing us? These guys so Portuguese. They're talking about fire, water, camping, non-perishables. We're done that 2 weeks ago. We put that on a boat. You need solar inverters. Right now we need laundry detergent, mouthwash, more industrial shelves for shelving for the people. Have you talked to the families? They have nothing. We have the DOE meeting as well. We got laptops yesterday donated from someone from Haiku. We have superheroes out there, and we gave it away to families, kids, and parents. We're supposed to get 50 more, and we're going to give 25 to Esterns. We're going to have some more so we can make sure it gives to the kids so they can actually learn on YouTube, virtual reality, and it's already done. That was so bad in the first FEMA meeting, they didn't know what they were talking about. They believed their bad intel from EOC, blah, 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 that the air was good. That is aole. Because I went there with a team from Florida, real chemical engineers, to go get test samples from the ground. It was so bad, I forgot I had slippers. I'm so Kanaka that I got the ash all on my feet and on my mouth. And I didn't have anything to wipe it, so the ladies used the maxi pad, and we wiped my mouth with that. That's how memorable it is. But it was 14 days ago. I mean, maybe 4 to 5. It's a 14-day chemical sample. It's already in Florida. It's already chemically test certified, Army, blah, 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 blah. So in about 10 days, we should get the results back from ground zero and let you guys know what's going down. Now, we have to work together. But why did FEMA 86 us? The second time we go, me and Zane both get kicked out. We're not allowed to tell you guys what's going down. We have no idea, and they're not being straight. So for the second agenda item, I'll just wrap things up quick. I would like you guys to believe in Uncle Junior's vision.
4 minutes.
To build our own hale. He has a great plan, and I'll let him explain everything for that so we can pass the baton and work it together. But just like Auntie Don Chang said, and Uncle Kemoku Kapu, we can still use the laws to our advantage. HRS 1-1 is the Hawaii Fixed Judicial Precedence, brings us back to the Great Mahele, which protects the burial lands under HRS 172-11, which Uncle Kemoku Kapu is a part of for the Burial Council. The water rights is HRS 7-1. So we can play this game all day long. We do it on the Mauna, but now we can do it right. Because it's under a allodial title, Hawaiian Kingdom, just like Lahaina, so we can bring it all back and rebuild it together. Because of Filipino, Chinese, Portuguese, Tongan. I'm not GOD. I can't tell you how to rebuild your house. You should be able to rebuild your house your way. The problem where I cry is that if you owned your house for generations there, and you already paid it off, you're just paying the tax and whatever, you have every God-given right under U.S. Constitution, Hawaiian Constitution, whatever you feel, to go back and build your hale how you want to, correct? But they're not letting you. And where do you put all the toxic materials? Where do you put the waste? Yeah, the EPA said this. Where are you going to put it? Area 51? I believe you're going to dump it in the ocean or do what you did in Waianae, put it in the landfill. Because we got talks from the Instagram land about the DEW, about all this other stuff, and we can talk about that later off camera. Thank you very much. Arigato.
My name is Sterling Higa. I'm testifying on behalf of Housing Hawaii's Future in my role as Executive Director on both items. Let's not forget why our mayor and governor have to issue emergency proclamations to address homelessness and housing. It's because this county council has done nothing to reform exclusionary zoning laws that are explicitly designed to make housing unaffordable. Maui's zoning code has not changed substantially since it was adopted in 1960, before the Civil Rights Act. I'm 32. And in my lifetime, this council has done nothing to reform these racist laws. Why? Because of a lack of will. Now, we know we need to do this. The Maui County Comprehensive Affordable Housing Plan was paid for with our taxpayer dollars and published in 2021. Zoning reform is not only mentioned in the plan, it is literally policy priority number 1. Quote, update the county zoning code to lower housing costs and promote affordability by design, end quote. Now, in 2020, the county began a comprehensive reform of the zoning code, Title 19. That's great. It's paid mainland consultants hundreds of thousands of dollars to help. That's great. That reform process was scheduled to complete in 2026, and it is currently 2 years behind schedule, and I think that the administration has other things to focus on and will forget about it. So, we have a choice. We can wait until 2028 to reform these laws and lose thousands of Native Hawaiian and local families in the meantime. Or you, the 9 elected members of this council, can take action. The Maui County Council is the sovereign law-making body of this county. You don't need to wait for the mayor. You don't need to wait for mainland consultants. You don't need to wait for someone with fancy letters after their name to take action. Maui's exclusionary zoning laws, minimum lot sizes, minimum parking requirements, limits on accessory dwelling units, bans on kauhale, these laws are racist and make it impossible to build affordable housing. Period. You, our 9 elected leaders, have the power to change these laws in this room with sunshine, with participation from the public. Don't wait. Let's move forward together. Zoning reform now.
Mr. Higa, I just was wondering your ideas on how we prioritize Native Hawaiian and local families. Last I checked, we're operating under the U.S. Constitution, and that is not a legal thing to do. And I've heard very clearly from my community that they don't want to do the building for the mainland folks that will come when we build all of these houses. So I was wondering, you know, short of ignoring the U.S. Constitution, your ideas of how to prioritize our Native Hawaiian and local families outside of DHHL lands.
So the first thing is DHHL lands are really important, and these reforms also apply on DHHL lands. If you build small units on small lots, those are the most affordable form.
Oh, just to clarify, DHHL lands are exempt from county zoning and permitting, so they don't have to comply.
But they also don't build this type of small housing on their lands. So what I'm saying is it would make it less expensive to build housing, to build tinier homes on small lots that could be deeply affordable. So one of the things to think about is, why do mainland families consistently outbid local families? And the answer is, we only allow the building of expensive housing. So for example, you need to have a 6,000 square foot lot to build a single family home. The issue is a local family right now spends $1,500 renting a room. That's, I think, the going rate for one room in a house, right, on Maui. For that price, you could get a conventional home loan for $200,000 and build a 600 square foot unit on a 1,200 square foot lot and stop being a renter and become a homeowner. We could take all of the people of Maui right now who are stuck in the cycle of being renters and turn them into homeowners. No, they're not going to have an 8,000 square foot lot. No, they're not going to have a 6,000 square foot lot, but they will have a home that is theirs forever. If we want local families, Native Hawaiian families, to have homes, we have to build the homes that people can afford. As another aside, many of our homeless population are Native Hawaiian. We make it illegal to build the single-room occupancy kauhales that are key to housing this group. The most affordable form of housing, not just in Hawaii, but around the world historically, are single room occupancy, where people have a bedroom and they share kitchens and bath in a communal fashion. Under current county zoning in Maui, that's illegal. You can't build that. So my recommendation would be 4 things that this council could put together in a starter homes bill. The first thing would be to reduce minimum lot sizes to 1,200 square feet. That would allow a 6,000 square foot lot to be subdivided 5 times potentially, which means all of the existing developable land, we can build more housing on that land without ever touching important agricultural lands, without ever going into more areas that haven't been developed yet. The second thing is to reduce minimum parking requirements. Maui has the most stringent minimum parking requirements of any of the 4 counties. You require 2 parking stalls for every new unit of construction. That adds between 12 to 25% of the cost of development, and it adds the most cost to affordable housing. Affordable housing is increased in cost when land is expensive by 25% when you have these minimum parking requirements, which is especially, like, I'm not going to swear, it's especially messed up when you consider that many families deep in poverty don't have cars. That's nuts. The third thing is, so the question that this council should ask is, do we want to, in this recovery, prioritize building parking or building housing? If we want to build housing, don't require people to build parking. The third thing is we have to lift limits on accessory dwelling units. Right now in Maui, if you have a 7,500 square foot lot, you can only build 1 accessory dwelling unit. Raise that limit to 3. That means that people right now who are already housing the displaced can build them a permanent home on their property, neighbors taking in neighbors. It also means that our upcountry friends and friends around the county that have currently unpermitted accessory dwelling units will be able to make those units legal so that they can get insurance on their homes. Because let's be honest, some of the families in Lahaina couldn't insure their homes because they had illegal accessory dwelling units. And now they have nothing. That's a law you can change.
Did you answer your question?
Sorry, the last thing, just one last element, is you have to lift this ban on single room occupancy. We have to legalize kauhale. The only way we've been able to build kauhale in the last few years is because of the governor's emergency proclamation. These things are illegal to build because of county zoning. If you do just those 4 things, a starter homes bill, you could build the deeply affordable housing that currently people stuck renting could afford to own, and you could help the people of Maui to start to rebuild, to take in their neighbors, and to solve the housing crisis once and for all.
For ADUs, so for this emergency proclamation, it is like a sledgehammer when really a scalpel is needed. And some of your very specific ideas, I think, would actually help to provide housing more immediately instead of on undeveloped land. So mahalo for making those points. For the ADUs, I think, well, I guess you kind of spoke to your ideas, but regarding the 3 ADUs and then like not having a parking requirement, Maui County, we don't have an efficient, convenient mass transportation system. And primarily, transportation is vehicular. And we know that if you don't have that requirement for on-site parking, it'll be pushed off-site. And we've seen that, on Oahu. So I guess I don't, could you clarify how you envision eliminating that requirement and it not just being pushed off onto public streets?
Yeah, this is a fair question, and Housing Hawaii's Future, the organization I help lead, has a whole research brief on minimum parking requirements, which will be released in a couple of weeks. We're just in the final phase of editing and mocking it up with graphics, and it has some suggestions. Briefly, though, these accessory dwelling units already exist, right? They exist upcountry, they exist around the island. The parking, you don't need to have a paved surface to park a car. I think this is like a common misconception, right? I don't know about you, but at my house, when a couple people come over...
Well, you need a space, though. You need the space to have some, even if it's not paved, even if it's gravel, you'd still need space for that vehicle, right?
Yeah, but the county zoning code right now doesn't have that scalpel approach to defining and making it easier. So I think I hear your concern, and it's important that we address that. But just another thing to think about is like, we can do both, right? We can do better off-street or on-street parking management, and the County of Maui does have the Park Maui program or Maui Parking Program that has been working to do that, and that's important. One thing to note, though, is if you require the construction of parking stalls for new units, you will attract people who can afford the parking stalls and people who have cars. So if we're serious about Wailuku and Kahului becoming dense communities that are walkable, we have to lift these parking requirements, and that will spur the kind of density that makes the transit-oriented development work. We don't have the density right now to support a good mass transit system, and we need one on Maui. I grew up on Oahu. We have an awesome public transit system. It was among the best in the country for years. It won national awards. And it's easier to get around there because of that. But the key to unlocking mass transit is density. So it is a chicken and egg thing, and we have to do both together.
So you said you have some research, the fact that about parking. Does the research suggest that low-income folks don't need parking stalls, don't use cars?
No, so
Can't afford it.
if I can clarify, it might take a little bit. So the problem is when land is expensive, requiring parking adds significantly to the cost of development. And the more parking you require, the higher the cost is, which means you actually don't get any development for the poorest people. Right? Like right now, you cannot price out the kind of construction with the parking requirements for our lowest income people, especially, for example, our homeless population. You can't price out that right now with minimum parking requirements. Even if you require just one parking unit per stall, that will render basically it impossible without significant millions of dollars of county subsidy to build this housing. And the reason we support these reforms is the County of Maui is going to struggle financially for years to come, and the state as well. Our traditional approach to housing has been to ignore the fact that our zoning laws are broken and dump millions.
I hear where you come from. You answered my question. You know, it wasn't long ago, 3 years ago, in fact, I was living in low-income housing, right? I speak on a lived experience of low-income housing, and we needed our cars. I live on Lanai. We don't have that robust transportation system that maybe Oahu does. So that's thanks for answering my question. When you do get that research out, please send it to me. I'd love to learn
just
about
if I could do a brief one, Johnson, in response, Councilmember Johnson, you could limit this to areas within a quarter mile of transit stops or a half mile of transit stops if you wanted to be surgical in saying where minimum parking requirements would not be required.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Christian Rosenthal. I'm born and raised in Lahaina. I live in Waikapu now. I know the housing issue is real and it is out there. My question is, and it's because I work in the industry, is where is the water going to come from? Because it seems to come back to housing, and we can put all this housing out there, but for me, it's the water issue. I work in the water industry, and as a water operator and a water purveyor, the first issue or the first responsibility of your job is to be a conservationist. And it goes the same thing as being a hunter and gatherer. The first responsibility is a conservationist. So being a water purveyor or water operator, conserving our resource is the main concern for me. I have children that is, God forbid that they got to move away because our resources have been depleted. And the issue of the narratives and stuff like that is happening in Lahaina, about the water being released to the ocean, that's part of conservation. The water brings life into the land. It brings life into the water, brings life into the ocean. Our limu is gone. and our resources are depleting because we just keep taking from them. So my biggest issue is on the water side, because we can say we want to do all these good things and all these this stuff for the people, but yet we're not restoring our water supply. As growing up in Lahaina, you would drive on the road and you would look up into the mountain and you would see all the waterfalls coming down from the mountain.
Please conclude.
The whole stretch of Lahaina, all the way to Napilika, all the way to Kapalua. There's no waterfalls anymore. So my concern is the water.
Good morning. This is Wayne Tanaka. I'll be testifying on the first agenda item. I'm a member of the Build Beyond Diaries Working Group. I've been looking at this proclamation since it was signed. And so just off the bat, I want to point out that there's a separate wildfire emergency proclamation that's focused on the wildfire and is much more expansive. And so that could be used potentially for immediate relief without this housing proclamation, which others have noted opens the door for development without really any explicit affordability safeguards or even a working definition of Hawaii residents. And so I'd just like to take a couple minutes to highlight the ways this proclamation, I think, can take away the voices of your constituents and your voices as well. And this is all grounded in the actual language of the proc. So first, it suspends the Sunshine Law for any board or commission that deals with housing. And you all know about the Sunshine Law, so I won't belabor this point. Second, it also suspends Chapter 46 in its entirety. That includes county planning and zoning that can reinforce those plans. And I've seen how communities, in East Maui, East Molokai, West Molokai, Hawaiian communities put in hundreds, thousands of hours of discussion and debate and persistence in these county community planning efforts. And not because they're paid, because they're not paid, but because of their deep attachment to the land and their desire to pass on to future generations the things that makes their Aina special. And so by suspending Chapter 46, this proc kind of threatens to override the voices and work of the Ku'aina of Molokai, of East Maui, and replace all of that with what developers and what, either the lead housing officer or the majority of the working group in Honolulu decide is best. Third, this takes away your voice as a council members, your ability to uphold the interests of your constituents. This is not targeted at affordable housing, but there is a provision about 201H projects, which can receive major state and county exemptions for developments that are 50% affordable, which I think is $2,800 a month rent for a studio in Maui County. But at least as elected county officials representing your constituents, you normally have a say in whether to approve or modify these projects, so you can make sure it fits the needs of your voters. And this proc takes away the voice of the county councils under 201H and gives it to the county planning directors. I mean, other things it gets rid of, the Land Use Commission, its process of taking in the information of culture practitioners, small farmers, fishers, Kama'aina, same thing with environment review process, substitutes it without, it removes it without a comparable mechanism for input. And so, I just want to highlight that, this proclamation takes the voices of their constituents and mechanisms that really force developers and government decision makers to at least be informed by your voters. And thank you.
Mr. Tanaka, in his role on this new board would be for Commission on Water Resource Management?
Sure. No, I'm actually on the Build Beyond Barriers Working Group, which was established under the Emergency Proclamation to certify certain projects for all of the suspensions under the proclamation. The working group isn't the only authority, though, that can approve projects for anything that receives state or county financing or funds or lands or even just a state or county waiver or exemption. Those are considered state or county projects which can be approved by the lead housing officer without the working group.
And your capacity currently is?
As a non-government member of that working group.
Oh, okay. And then, but Ms. Medeiros can still go ahead and approve without the board's approval, right?
Yes, she's allowed to. She can authorize any state or county projects, which is broadly defined as even a private development, as long as it gets some kind of exemption or waiver from the state or the county, the lead housing officer can approve those on her own without the working group.
So my question as a member of the Building Beyond Barriers working group, has discussion, so you talked about some of the impacts that the emergency proclamation has to specifically counties. Has the working group taken up some of these concerns to the proclamation, as someone stated earlier in testimony, that the proclamation can be amended because I think they only last for about 60 days or something? So has that discussion been had in the working group in preparation of the expiration of the current emergency proclamation?
Thank you. Chair. Thank you, Council Member. We have not actually had very much time at all to discuss a range of foundational issues with governance, with procedure, much less the substantive provisions of the proclamation, unfortunately. We've only had 2 meetings, and the first was largely introductions, and the second was focused specifically on proposals that were put forward to the lead housing officer, most of which were withdrawn.
So it seems that the assumption is that the renewal of the emergency proclamation as is would continue on after the expiration of the current proclamation.
I'm not privy to those conversations. That's something that the governor's office and his team are, I'm assuming, discussing, but I can't say.
To be followed by Jonathan Silva.
Excuse me, I'm Portuguese from Whiteside. I'm not as sculpted and refined as everyone else. But I'm here to speak on behalf of my people. I'm the school counselor from King Kamehameha Third Elementary. That is no longer in existence. Hopefully we will rebuild. First off, I'd like to say that I support Mr. Huey and the lady who went after him, who was representing the tenants of Lahaina. I don't believe that this proclamation addresses the root causes of the housing crisis. I could see the housing crisis back in the early 2000s. I went to school in San Diego. When I left for school, average house price was $200,000. And now I come home, I graduate, what, $800,000, huh? Like, how is that possible? Anyway, my coworkers right now, they're fighting for our kids on the west side, and I'm standing on this side to fight for the others are affected. What I'm going to talk about isn't taking away from the devastation that happened in Lahaina 3 weeks ago. I'm going to highlight something else is a ripple effect of that disaster, and this emergency proclamation doesn't address unemployment and foreclosures. I'm all about keeping Lahaina lands in Hawaiian hands. I'm just highlighting the ripple effect of the shutting down messages that is going on around the world that is affecting the rest of us. A little more about myself. Besides being a school counselor at Camp Third Elementary for 13 years, I also work at the Ritz-Carlton, the Kealani, and at the Grand Wailea. Yeah, just to afford my house. Small, money, reasonable house. And that's my normal. Since the 8th, all 3 of my hotels shut down, and all of my income that I need is cut off. I do not qualify for unemployment because I still get my state job, but we're gonna lose our house. Who gonna help me? Who gonna help the people in my canoe, yeah? I don't wanna say to the people or everybody, oh yeah, we all in the same boat. No way, the people in Lahaina, they in a completely different boat. Their boat burned down, they no more boat. But there's another group of us that is in a different boat, and we sinking, and we need help. So what I'm concerned about is the people that are in my boat. We're gonna lose our houses. Maybe we're gonna be homeless. Maybe we're gonna have to move. My family's been here for 6 generations. This is the only place we know. I have like 1,500 cousins here, and I'm not the only one that is in my boat. We're gonna all have to move away. How many of you know someone that works 2 jobs, 3 jobs? And I know many lifeguards, firefighters, police officers, landscapers that also work at the hotel part-time, and all their income is cut off. What can happen to them? My fear is that we're gonna have a mass exodus, not just from the Lahaina residents, but from the rest of the island. As a school counselor, I also see the emotional impact from this additional burden placed on families that were already living paycheck to paycheck, and now you cut off 20 to 50% or more of their income. What they gonna do? This is not COVID again. No more stimuluses. No more what we gonna do? In addition to the emotional damage that's causing crime, suicide rates are gonna go up, as well as homelessness, which I alluded to. So in conclusion, I propose a moratorium on foreclosures, halting the purchasing of homes from outside of Hawaii. And I know you mentioned earlier about that not being unconstitutional, and I can address that in a moment. And the more flexibility for unemployment benefits for ladies and gentlemen like myself to extend to those who still have a job, but they cannot collect. If this emergency proclamation people are saying that this is unconstitutional, then why can't we change the Native Hawaiian requirements or the local family requirements to do that? Why don't we make an emergency proclamation to amend that Constitution? Or if the Constitution doesn't support our people, then why don't we change the Constitution? Because isn't that what the Constitution's for? Right? So we want to help people. If there's barriers, build whatever the barriers thing, let's lift the barriers. I have my house. Yeah, but who's trying to buy my house? Not local families. They're not buying my house. All my offers is coming from the outside. Let's protect our people from all of this outside money coming in, and let's help our local families by lifting those barriers.
You're proposing that the Maui County Council amend the U.S. Constitution. I'm down, but I'm down to do that, but I don't think the lawyers would let us.
I'm for starting the conversation. I am for looking at your people, and if the Constitution doesn't serve your people, then yes, we have to start the process somewhere. And I don't have ties to realtors. I have friends that are realtors. I have lots of friends and family that are construction workers, and a lot of stuff that I'm seeing might affect them. But why I'm here is for the next generation, for the generations before me, and if what we do today, what we do tomorrow, next month, we might not see the fruits of it. At least we plant the tree, and at least they can bask in the fruits of our labor. So yes, it might seem daunting, but like I said, if the Constitution doesn't serve our people, then we got to change the Constitution.
I think it may be more easier to deoccupy Hawaii than for the Maui County Council to change the United States Constitution. It might be better to ask America to deoccupy Hawaii so that our own Constitution can benefit our own people.
I choose whatever is the easiest, but yes, as a person that is not from America and not American, I support I would love to see that in my lifetime or in my child's lifetime. That would bring so much joy to me, knowing that my kids would live under the Hawaiian Kingdom again.
The next testifier is Paul Cheng, to be followed
I
by
have made a formal presentation to the council. It's submitted to e-comment, so I won't go into that because it's very long and detailed. But basically, I want to discuss how we can finance the building of several hundred affordable houses right away, affordable rentals. There's a long-established program called LIHTC, LIHTC, and it involves the federal government offering tax credits to large corporations to fund the construction of affordable housing. Bottom line is that if you have such tax credit, 55% of the cost of a unit can be paid for by the federal government's tax credit. The state also has a program that mirrors it, but it's about half of it. So that's another 27%. And then HFFDC has a housing revolving fund that has 12% that can easily fund 12% on a loan basis for the project. And then the county can usually fund just 6%. So what happens is that on a program like this, the county's funds get leveraged 16 times. And it's not a new idea. It's an existing program that's everywhere in the country. They do that. The issue is that because it's such a good program, there's a limit per person. per state. So Hawaii being a small state, it doesn't get very much funding from the tax credit. It starts with the federal level, but given this emergency and this disaster relief, in Louisiana and Paradise in California, there has been precedent that Congress can pass a specific legislation that aims new credits specifically for West Maui. In other words, they can designate it and override that per person limit per year. Otherwise, typical production from this program, from the LIHTC program, is probably 100, 150 units a year statewide. So in order to accelerate the production of housing, we need to ask Ms. Menderos and the governor to push for in the federal relief bill coming up for Maui. Hopefully there will be one that to assign specific tax credit. And the tax credit comes in 10 years. So really you're asking for 1 year, which is, if you want to build 740 units in Maui on Pulilehua, it's only $45 million a year for the government, federal government. That's totally affordable to them. And it would be just a stroke of a pen, literally. But it comes in 10-year chunks, so they're committing the whole 10-year of 45. But that's how the program works. And it go everywhere, every day, they do this. So it's not like we're inventing something, asking for something never been done before. It's just that they need to allocate this tax credit to us. So Pulilehua, as you know, is ready to deliver 740 plus the 60, which is 800 units plus of affordable housing, if we can get funding. And we don't need it all. In other words, if the negotiations came back and we only got half, fine, we'll do half of that. So it's a per unit basis, and there's no problem. It's not like, oh, well, you know, we only got a third, then, you know, we can't do anything. No, we can do 1/3 of the units that way. This mechanism of financing it is the most effective way for the county to leverage its funding ability to get the most housing out of it. And it's for affordable rental, yes. Phase 1 has already started since April. We broke ground then. We've been continually under construction. We've been grading and breaking rocks and doing all the good stuff for phase 1.
And you will be able to house people when?
Probably in 20 months. We ran into a lot of rocks at the top there. So it's been a little bit slow going, but as soon as we get through that stage, we already completed probably 1/3 of the retainer walls. It's coming along. It's not anything unusual. So, yes.
Great. Your explanation of the LIHTC housing, I mean,
I can't hear you.
Oh, with your explanation of LIHTC and funding, then that was not necessarily for your project because you're fine. You were just suggesting for future projects.
Okay, so I had market rate units in mind, phase 1. So if we want to convert everything to affordable, that's what I was talking about. Because right now, I think affordable is the most important.
I'm really happy that you're interested in making more affordable units. The concern that I have is with LIHTC funding, because it's LIHTC, because it's federal money, it will exclude Bill 111, which is a residential preference list that allows us to make people who live here the longest have a preference. And one of the things we often hear is, yeah, who are the affordable housing units for? Well, we want them to be for our residents. So is there, you know, I understand your point, and I understand that methodology. We often see people doing it that way by using LIHTC funding. Is there a way that you can look for other pots of money, other subsidies, without using federal funds so that we can prioritize our residents who lived here the longest? Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I like to answer it in 2 ways. One is that we need to ask Congress, the lawyers, because when they write a special bill, like they did it for Louisiana and they did it for Paradise in California when they had that horrible fire, obviously it was for those people. Nobody else got the credit. And so they might be able to override that geographic thing by putting it in a specific bill. Literally, they just slip it in appropriations bill of, you know, $1 trillion or something, and this is 45 million tax credit. They don't even know line 900, page 900. So the constitutional lawyer can solve that. And I'm hoping that the Senate, our U.S. senators, represented from Hawaii, of course, can quickly work that out. Because if you say it takes $5 billion to fix the problem, right? I mean, that has been bannered around, 3 billion, 5 billion. Well, if you use this program, 45 million a year for 10 years from them would gain us several hundred, 740 units. That's a really good, effective use of the funds. And the rest, you can use that for all the necessary spending.
Guests. My name is Lisa Darcy, and I am the founder of Share Your Mana. I am also a commissioner on Healing Solutions for Homelessness, and have served in multiple capacities in the state and in the county. I come here today to, again, bring up the elephant, one of the elephants in the room. I cannot articulate as elegantly as so much of the generational knowledge that has come before me, and or just the emotional intelligence that is here. I urge this council to listen to it and to integrate it. Right now, the elephant that seems to keep growing larger through the proclamation, I'm testifying regarding the proclamation, HLU-3 Pren 5 and HLU-3 Pren 6. It overlooks the fact that this is, we intellectually know this is a systemic crisis. We intellectually know that being unhoused and houseless and unsheltered and homeless is a United States system-made problem. It is not a Hawaii problem. That said, there are already too many people living in subhuman conditions before this disaster. And it is the work of all of the years and the different capacities that I come for you today to honor the emotional disaster that hasn't even unfolded yet. And this proclamation, and from what I can see on the state housing efforts, they're pieces of paper, and they can be very exclusionary. And they're exclusionary because those who have already never had a seat at the table are not even talked about. They're not even discussed. If you are not discussing any of these solutions without the current illegal, not illegal, the already harmful practices that this county and the state engages in, for example, it is still illegal to sleep in your car. There are still no safe sleeping areas. If this is not the first thing that is on everybody's list, you're totally missing the boat. And I get how people want to check boxes on a piece of paper because you want to feel like you did something. These are some of the most basic boxes you have to check. There are so many people that are going to end up unhoused and are ending up unhoused in the next month or so. It's the only thing I can say is I come before you dying. I'm dying every day when I bring this for 20 years and then some. And the good news is that probably that's the part of me that needs to die so the phoenix can rise. And I don't know what that looks like. But the knowledge of the people who have testified here has got to be integrated. The state and the county has got to listen to the people that Share Your Mana supports. You have to do that, or you're just going to keep spinning your wheels. So
Hi, my name is Kelly Anderson. I'm a resident of Lahaina. As a Lahaina resident, I'm 37 years old, and it took a long time to get my first home, and obviously it's all gone. But when we rebuild Lahaina, this gives us a fresh start, and I would like to honor those 4 main streams that come down the west side, because when we honor those streams, then it will bring nourishment and moisture to the land. And this may impact housing, but I think in the long run, it will help the people go back to honoring the land, and it'll help us in preventing fires in the future. Also, for housing, I would like to propose an affordable housing option and I wrote you guys a couple days ago saying that it should be a seashell community. These houses that I found are fireproof houses and weatherproof housing. They can house families up to 4 to 6 people, because to me, the boxes that we're putting in right now aren't quite big enough for long-term sustainable housing until we rebuild a family house. By putting in the seashell housing, it allows communities to come back together. It honors Maui because Maui is nature. And then if we put it in the center of Maui, because we have all those plants and crops that we put, then we can surround those communities with plants. So it'll help bring more plants, it'll rebuild our community. But our tourists that then fly in, they'll see these seashell communities and they'll be inspired. These houses are affordable for everybody involved, and then they can be used as temporary housing until families have their house back in Lahaina to move back into. Afterward, you can use them for continued affordable housing or short-term housing as you want.
Ano e me ke aloha, mai ka ino ko wa kea ai ka ino ko wa paopili o wau ke o kumutau Madeiras, he kamawau no lele, he kumu wau o wau ke kahi o nā kumu ma ke kula kai puni o Lahaina Luna. Aloha everybody, I am Kumutau Madeiras. I'm one of the 3 kumu at ke kula kai puni o Lahaina Luna, testifying as an individual, you know, and I understand that, you know, everybody's trying their best. This isn't, you know, this is something that is horrible and no one really knows how to deal with stuff. But I just, thank you, Punana Leo Lahaina. You know, I lost everything. So I'm wearing a shirt that was donated to me. I felt like this is the perfect saying right here, yeah. Okay, o ke kahua mamua mahope ke kukulu, yeah. If you don't know what that is, look it up. You're in Hawaii. I mean, you should know a little bit of Hawaiian, you know. What is the kahua? What is the kahua of state, county, whatever? It's the people, you know. Right now, the people are hurting. Many things being said, all this housing and Governor Green's emergency proclamation and all that kind of stuff. First off, for that proclamation, somebody gotta show, some leaders in the community gotta show that you guys don't approve of it. And if you don't approve of it, like, be very vocal about it, because it's not something that's okay. Basically, Lahaina is a mass grave now. And before that, it was the most culturally dense site, one of the most culturally dense sites in Hawaii, maybe not in the nation, maybe in the nation, who knows? But, you know, it really shows that they can really do anything now. It doesn't matter. They could plop workforce housing on Moku'ula, you know? So stuff like that. One of the most sacred spots in Hawaii to Hawaiian people be desecrated like that. So yes, please, I understand that it's not not entirely you guys pushing all of this stuff through. You know, I'm a teacher, I teach history and you know, participation in democracy and all that kind of stuff. But you guys do have the power to show your guys' point of view and be very vocal about it. So please, that's all I ask from all of you as the county council, pertaining to the governor's proclamation. And then the housing situation. My family was in the workforce housing. It's shown that it doesn't work. It doesn't. It's still overpriced. It literally, all that's left of it is 3 pillars, 1 elevator and 2 stairwells. You know, it was made to cram all the local people as like sardines in a single area, just so that we can keep manning the trenches for tourism and society, you know. So we need to find better ways of finding things and not just letting unelected officials run all over us and make decisions. You know, there was a time in 1893 where unelected officials put themselves in charge of the Hawaiian Kingdom. You know, and look how well that got us now. Look where that got us. You know, the reason the Hawaiian Kingdom ran so well is because our ali'i, our mo'i followed their, I'm wrapping it up. They followed their na'au and not their wallets. So, mahalo nui, mahalo ya okopaka ya pau, keloha nui.
This is Michele Tenkayo, MT. Aloha, as a kalo farmer and Native Hawaiian, I want to make sure that the Emergency Proclamation, July 17, 2023, does not take a step towards eliminating me. By going against Article 12, Section 7 of the Hawaii State Constitution provision that protects Native Hawaiian rights, resources, cultural traditions, and subsistence, allowing me to exist, our streams to exist, streams to flow Maukutamakai, my kalo to exist. We can continue to feed our families and communities and make sure that feeding Hawaii by Hawaii's people and farmers does not go away. And remember the important push this and past years to increase local food production in Maui County and Hawaii and get Hawaii less dependent on shipping food to Hawaii. Food is life, water is life. So please, Maui County Council, uphold the state water code. Also regarding the need of affordable homes, because affordability is not defined, there is no trust in the proclamation that truly affordable homes will be built. So at this time, no new developments, especially because we want to make sure that there are enough resources to rebuild Lahaina, water being the main resource, rebuilding the homes of our residents in Lahaina that lost their homes should be the priority. In addition, let's take a look at the short-term rentals out there, which are heard to be over 10,000. Let's do whatever needs to convert those into long-term rentals and put a moratorium on any requests, approvals of short-term rentals until Lahaina has been rebuilt.
The next testifier is Pa'ana'akala Tanaka, to be followed by
Aloha mai ka ko Ovau Pa'ana'akala Tanaka. I'm testifying on the first regarding the emergency proclamation. He kumu wau ma ke kula kaiapuni o Lahaina. And even regarding Lahaina, no Lahaina maiau. I've been there for generations, so have my grandparents and great-grandparents. We lost one of the most important homes, my grandmother's home, which I was raised in, and many memories there. And so, just in response to this emergency proclamation, it is way too vague. It doesn't even define affordable. And I just want to kako'o what others have said, that this is opening the door to corruption. There's absolutely no transparency. In addition, what I've also heard too regarding the water, I am one of those families, and we have fought for so long alongside the county to establish these in-stream flow standards. And I feel that with this, it's all of that is out through the door. And it started before me, yeah? We've been fighting this for even beyond my lifetime, my kupuna's lifetime, and my great-grandparents' lifetime to establish these safeguards. And when we talk about resiliency, that is the fight. That is the water. Without the water, we have nothing. And Lahaina, as it's been out there, everybody knows that this was a place of water, so much water. And in the stream that I'm connected to, Kahoma, and the way that I understand that stream flows, and in planting kalo, that these are the veins that help to feed our I know that our county council just needs to do everything that it needs to do to make sure that these streams are protected. Because if we have no water, then there's no resiliency, yeah? And so really that's just what I'm here to say today. And just thank you for taking the time to hear me. And I just want to stand in solidarity with our community, because our community is speaking. I've been here all morning. Oh, everyone, I just hear it echoing and echoing again, and the community is speaking to you. And so I hope that you will protect our water resource And this proclamation cannot take that away. It cannot. We need to do everything that we have to do to make sure that this does not happen.
Moving on to Stephen Foreman to be
What was
followed by
presented, the emergency proclamation, first item.
Thank you.
This proclamation just seems too vague, appears too vague, and I truly don't understand it, and it seems too vague to really be instituted as it is. If we are addressing the need for low-income housing and affordable housing in general, the emergency proclamation just isn't the proper avenue in which to do that. There have been many or some low-income housing proposals, and from what I understand, a lot of those proposals were shot down or just caught up too much in red tape, and this would be the way to deal with low-income housing and affordable housing, is to clean up the process of which we use that, not have a emergency proclamation that just pushes them through. The Spencer project from Alaya to Waikapu was one of those examples. There's many more, if people would just look into it, if you need to look into it. So the emergency proclamation just isn't necessary to create low-income housing. It seems like rent control would be a much better way to address low-income housing and affordable housing if this is the real issue. Rent control would also help manage these skyrocketing costs of real estate, because they wouldn't allow for rent control will help manage the skyrocketing housing of real estate because it will not allow for rents to be subsidized, these high mortgages. So also this just leaves way too much room for the regulations that are necessary for managing our buildings to be bypassed. There's environmental concerns, there's infrastructure. All this is just going to be bypassed. And infrastructure is a very important need of before any more housing is built. We need to get the proper infrastructure that can support it. So thank you. Please consider this proclamation is just, please suspend this. It's just not addressing the situation properly.
The next testifier is Leonard Nakoa. If you could please tell us.
Smoke and piss off right now. I came to this meeting, other than the DOE one that was right above where the hub that we was, because according to HLU-3 5, it's a state emergency proclamation. Where the lady went? Nani Madeiras. Where she went? Wanted her to hear me. She said yesterday she's gonna come listen to the Lahaina people. We came decide for her hear us. Yeah. This is crap. This is full of crap. Okay, we're feeling like we're getting shit on. Yeah, the people of Lahaina. We're done. We're done trying to be the nice people. When I first came back from Honolulu, I said, I'm pointing finger to the county because they took a little bit too long for get the supplies. They blocked the checkpoints. Mala was closed down. We lucky the boat ramp, Kahana boat ramp was open, so Molokai, the very first day, could deliver, I think, 14 boat loads of supplies. Couple of days later, Honolulu, I came on the first boat from Honolulu because I couldn't get on a plane for come home. We had 5,000 pounds of supplies on the boat. Took us 11 hours. Yeah. This proclamation, after all that suffering, after we doing everything, the state doing crap, is taking all our power away. Our voice, everything, yeah? You guys can work hard, you know, trying to protect overdevelopment, greedy developers will come and just run over this island of ours that we want and protect. Now the governor like come up with this state proclamation with that Nani Madeiras lady, who I also am a plaintiff against her in a litigation right now. I just ask my lawyer if I can say that.
Please
And they
conclude or
and
move
they
on to
said
the
I
next
can.
item.
And they said I can. So I'm going to tell you right now, this proclamation is bullshit. Okay? It takes our power away. I've been involved with affordable housing for over 27 years. I come here testify. I come here, you know, and do everything. Now you guys going to try to tell us we got to shut up? You know, that we no more say, that let it get all the power in the world for say what project can go and what project no can go. The brother that was on the, you know, on the 25 board, he said, no matter what the board says, that lady that will run away can go approve all these stupid projects. And we get screwed. We've been getting screwed. The millionaire developers get the green tape. The locals get the red tape. Listen to what I just said, guys. Okay, before this crisis would happen, I said that. One millionaire, okay, I catch them, we catch them, the public catch them, doing all illegal stuff. The county, the planning department, public works, find ways to say that he is legal. He can do them, he can build them. The thing right now, I just got a post this morning, okay? You heard that? Listen that mail. Listen public works. Listen planning. Listen ZAED. You're not a posting for $85,000 a night for a Greg Brown illegal home. Okay? When I went show the first evidence to the planning department, they
4 minutes total.
They never
You have
do
30
nothing.
seconds left.
They never do nothing. Okay? They never do nothing. They told me, oh, he took them down. Okay? Now, get this on again. Get this on again. So now, if he put them up again, what you guys gonna do? No more transparency. And now this state proclamation gonna take all that crap away. Junior's voice, loudest crap gonna be, cannot say nothing. This proclamation gotta go. Yeah, gotta go. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the second one.
Your time has expired and your
I'm
30
gonna talk about the
seconds.
second one, yeah?
Your 4 minutes have expired, sir.
I'm gonna tell you this.
We must ask you to
The
conclude.
housing, state housing. Okay, that's what it's all about.
Chair, I had a
We trying to build
Junior.
temporary homes
Junior.
right now.
Junior,
Hurry up.
Junior.
But
Member
we
Fulton
gotta,
would
I'm gonna
like to
tell you
ask you a
this.
question.
We've been
Could you do
fighting
that?
and fighting to get
I was wondering
our
what
people
his
some emergency homes.
thoughts were on the second item.
Yeah. Stop interrupting. You guys make this, okay, I thought I had 3 minutes for talk. You guys can change it to 2.
Yes.
You know, every time change. How you guys expect us to know what the heck you guys are gonna do every day? What if I plan on 3 minutes? Now I can only talk 2. I'm gonna talk forever. I don't care. You're gonna have to call the police. Call the police. I don't give a crap. Okay? I drove all on the side for that lady, Nani Madeiras, that proclamation sucks. She shouldn't have the power to tell us what project is good, which project is not. The only thing she tell us is to get projects going to do.
Chair, may we request a recess?
What project?
Yes,
was
just
it
to go to recess. This meeting is now in recess.
approved? We don't know. You guys
Thank you for the break, and I apologize to all of you for the outburst. But at this time, it is now 12:12, and it is the will of this committee chair to recess this meeting to September 13th, 2023 at 9 a.m. We have 121 testifiers signed up. We have only gone through 84. I'm hoping that we'll go through the balance of it at the next committee meeting. So at this time, at 12:12, the HLU committee meeting of 20.
Chair.
Yes.
Mahalo, Chair. Mahalo for taking my question before we recess the meeting today. There's 121 people who sign up to testify, and if we're planning to reconvene for a 3-hour slot of time again, I'm concerned that we won't get through the entire list of testifiers again in the 3 hours that we usually have for our committee meetings. So, do you have any ideas on how we could, have more time so that we can get to the point of asking the questions to our resource personnel that our testifiers have asked us?
I don't have an answer to your question, Member Rollins Fernandez, but we went through at least 84, the number 84. I know it's not a real number because that's the number that we're on now, but many people have dropped off and didn't show up. So I'm going to assume that with the 40 that we have left, if it remains the same number until September 13th, we can probably get through them. But if other people sign up, other than the other 40 that we have, we're going to just continue to hear our testimonies until we get to the point where our people have finished speaking to us. So that's all I can say today.
Right. So that's why I asked the question for the committee to consider not only having 3 hours for the next meeting so that we can get to deliberation. So if we can plan for that.
Yes, Anna.
We can attempt to work with the committee scheduling to schedule a full day meeting for the 13th, but it will take some coordination with DRIP that also meets on Wednesdays, but it sounds like Councilmember Paulton gave a thumbs up. So we can work on that, but if...
And mahalo, Ms. Lillis and Paulton, if that's something that you are gonna consider giving up, I would be happy to give up my committee time for DRIP if you would like it, and we can all work on that together. Mahalo, everyone. That's why I love our council. Everyone's just like, kako. It's a kako effort. Mahalo, Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Rollins Fernandez.
Chair Kama?
Yes.
And just for the record, the recessed meeting location will be Blue Jeans in the chamber, correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So if I may indulge Member Paulton, do you want to consider it or do you want to make a decision later on?
I can give it to you at this time.
At this time. Thank you so very much. So members, the next, yes, I heard a chair. Yes, Member Sinanci.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't sure. I do see, I'm looking at the testifier list. I think there were 1 or 2 that was still in the chamber. I don't know, Chair, up to you if you would want to consider hearing the 2 before we recess, since they've been waiting and have come to the chamber.
I think what I'd like to do, Member Sinanci, since you asked the question, is to allow the recess to take place until the 13th, at which time we're going to take the entire day. And thank you to Member Paulton for giving up her committee time so that we can go through all the testimonies and even at the end of the testimony have time to question the resources that will definitely be back.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
You're very welcome. And so at this time, members, the HLU committee meeting is now recessed until September 13th, 2023, 9 a.m. And it will be an all-day meeting. Thank you. Aloha. And the meeting is now recessed. On Blue Jeans and in chambers.
And in the chamber.